Calling this meeting to order, if the clerk can call the roll.
Mayor Weinberg,
Here.
Vice Mayor. Here. Commissioner Friedland. Here. Commissioner Joel.
Yeah.
Commissioner Cruz.
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Here.
Commissioner Stern.
Here.
Mr. Wasson.
Here.
And Mr. Myers. You have a quorum.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance.
Those of you that are willing and able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. Hobbit.
Thank you and welcome, everyone. It's nice to see so many people here. It's great. It's great when we fill the seats and we have democracy in action. Our city attorney will go over a few ground rules. We follow Robert's Rules of Procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we all understand the passion and intensity you bring to the issues, and that's why you're here today. And we also recognize that there's a First Amendment right that you can exercise, and speaking at a public forum is part of that right. Florida law also gives you the right to participate. But with that right, there are certain conditions that government can place on speakers. What we refer to those are sort of reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. And what I'm going to do is sort of go over some of the ground rules that have been adopted by the city of Aventura in a resolution that was passed this year. And it reaffirms your right to speak when we get to that portion of the meeting, but it also emphasizes the need to maintain order and decorum and operate efficiently. So let me sort of work through the resolution with you. First of all, some of the general requirements. That when you do speak, you're supposed to address all your comments to the commission as a body, not to individual commission members. There's a 3-minute rule, which will be observed for all public comments, unless the mayor extends it for good cause. Any person who makes impertinent or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous while addressing the commission shall relinquish the right to continue to speak. There's also decorum with respect to audience members. No clapping, applauding, heckling, or verbal outbursts from the audience in support or opposition to a speaker or the speaker's remarks shall be permitted. If that disruptive conduct continues after warning from the mayor, such audience members shall be ordered to leave the meeting. And I see we have some signs here for public safety purposes. No signs or placards mounted on sticks, posts, or poles or similar structure shall be allowed in the chamber. So if you have a sign and it has a stick or pole affixed to it, you should really put that outside and you can get it when the meeting's over, when you leave the meeting. For others, if you have signs which do not include sticks, posts, or poles, placards, banners, etc., as long as they don't disrupt the meeting and they don't interfere with the views of the others, those signs can stay with you while you're here. I guess I want to mention also that, as I said earlier, you have 3 minutes to speak when we come to that point in the proceedings. And if you have questions, it's not the time during your presentation, you're supposed to speak to the commission, not ask questions. If you do have questions about something after the meeting, the manager or I or a staff member can answer your questions. But the purpose of public comment is not to do a Q&A with the commission. And there are 2 opportunities to speak at the meeting. One is tied to specific agenda items, and you have to speak on that item or about that item. And then at the end of the meeting, there are public comments where you have an opportunity to speak on anything else that wasn't covered on the agenda that's within the jurisdiction of the city of Aventura. I guess I should also mention, Mayor, that it's very important for the commission to understand this point, especially during public comment period. We are in the middle of litigation. And since we are in the middle of litigation and there's also threatened litigation, I implore the commission not to comment after a speaker has made his or her remarks. It's very important that you as a commission listen to what the speakers have to say, but you should not respond for your protection and for the city's protection. And with that, I'm done with my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Mr. City Manager, any deletions or additions to the agenda?
No, Mayor.
Okay, let's move on to number 4. Special presentations. I think, Mr. Manager, you have a special recognition.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to take a minute just to recognize a group of individuals that work very hard for this city. We're very fortunate to be a part of Aventura, and as such, it's one of the cities that we're noted for very careful financial management. And that's not by accident. It happens because of the people behind me, and even more importantly, for the people that we're gonna recognize here tonight. We were notified just recently from the Government Finance Officers Association that our finance department was recognized as getting called the Triple Crown. That's getting recognized for 3 separate awards in accounting. To give you an idea how special this is, there's roughly 19,000 municipalities across the United States. There's only 16 that have been recognized in Florida, and Aventura is one of them. So I'd like to ask Melissa Cruz, the Finance Director, Sarah Simpson, our Budget Manager, Zena Strawn, our Accountant, our Controller, Brent Rogers, and our Customer Rep, Linda Mazzi, to come up, please. And just so I know I get this right, we have the annual comprehensive financial report, the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, and the popular annual financial report, which is something new, and it's on our website, and it's designed for people who really don't read budgets that much to look at it and understand what the city of Aventura spends our money on and how we take care of our finances. So at this time, I'd like to they're a little shocked because the finance guys, they're usually in the back, the bean counters, so. So I'd like to read this off. The City of Aventura Finance Department. Congratulations on achieving the prestigious Triple Crown Award, recognizing the highest level of financial reporting and management excellence. This esteemed recognition serves as a testament to your unwavering commitment to excellence and attests to the highest standards you have set in your field.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and thank you to the Finance Department for the great job that you do. Also, we have some exciting news regarding awards. I mentioned last month, for the first time in our history, we won an award for video production, and it was actually very, very special. The award was won by our communications vendor, Public Communicators Group. They're actually working right now. I need you guys to take a break. They won a gold video award for the piece they did entitled Michael Stern, Colorectal Cancer Awareness. That's Commissioner Michael Stern, the bravest person we have up here on the dais. Since 1995, the video awards are judged and administered by the Association of Marketing and Communications Professionals. This year, 15 video awards across a multitude of categories were awarded within the state of Florida. We are the only Miami-Dade County award winner. Not just the only city, not just the only government to win an award, the only award winner whatsoever in Miami-Dade County. Congratulations to Evan, Jan, and the whole team. Jan, you can stop with the camera for a second. The whole team at Public Communicators Group, and congratulations, Commissioner Michael Stern, whose story and public education efforts were the fuel that led to this award. Thank you for doing such great work for Aventura. We know there will be a lot more awards in the future. And with that, the awards are actually pretty nice looking. I'd ask that the entire commission go down and take a picture with our award winners. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have an item they want to remove from consent? Seeing none. I'm asking for a motion to approve consent agenda. Commissioner Bloom and a second. Sorry, Commissioner Friedland. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Friedland. Yes. Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bloom,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. It appears as though 6D, 6E, 6F, and 6G will be continued to the September 5th, 2023 City Commission meeting. Moving on to second reading. 6A. Madam Clerk, if you can read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending the City of Aventura Comprehensive Plan by amending Objective 2, Policy 2.2 of the Land Use Goal and the future land use element to allow densities not to exceed 70 dwelling units per acre in the town center land use category, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the comprehensive plan, authorizing transmittal, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve? Commissioner Bloom and a second. Commissioner Joel, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Bloom, Commissioner Joel. I'll ask our Community Development Director, Kevin Klopp, to review this item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Commission. I do have a presentation to go with the next three items, very brief, as you have heard about these items at workshop, at local planning agency meeting, at prior city commission meeting. But I do want to cover them very briefly. the three of them go together, 6A, 6B, and 6C. When we get to 6B and 6C, I believe those are quasi judicial and we'll have to swear for those. No? Okay. That's right. They're not. Okay, so 6A, which is the one we read, is a comprehensive plan amendment that increases the density in the land use category for mixed use in the city from 25 acres, 25 units per acre to 70 units per acre. That land use category is in two general locations. As you see here, town center on the left in the crosshatch coloring. A portion of it is in the area south of the Lehman Causeway and close to Biscayne Boulevard, which you see, let's see if my mouse will do it here. Yes, Biscayne Boulevard here, Lehman Causeway here. So you have this area that is land use category, mixed use town center. And there's also a portion up here off of Biscayne Boulevard at 207th Street. So this amendment is a comprehensive plan amendment, not a change in the zoning at this point, but just the overall plan. And it allows the increase in density for residential as a conditional use. So it is not automatic. It is something that would have to come back for commission on an individual basis for approval. So that is item 6A.
Any members of the commission have any questions or comments? If not, I'll open it up to public comment on this issue. Anyone? 6A. Comment on 6A. Yes. Come forward, state your name, please, your address, and you have 3 minutes. Good evening.
My name is Joy Zeifer. I live at 37.
I'm sorry. The microphone didn't pick it up because you started too soon. Your name again, I'm sorry.
My name is Joy Zeifer. I live at 3700 Island Boulevard, 33160. So my comment is that I believe that the City of Aventura Master Comprehensive Plan only allows a high density of 60 units. This is now asking for 70 units, and I don't understand why. I haven't seen a traffic pattern study that supports this, that supports infrastructure, that supports a change to our comprehensive master plan to be able to enable safety to our residents, to be able to reduce severe congestion in our city, which has endangered lives. So I need to understand from this commission, your mindset that you are increasing density beyond our comprehensive master plan that's been in place since 1998. That seems to be working just fine, that has infrastructure that has been tested and works from the county, the state, and the city. But I haven't seen a replacement plan for what you're offering and what you're looking to approve. I have been living here since 1976, and I love this city. So just please explain to the public why an increase in density is a benefit to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Let me remind you, please. There's no clapping. Whether you're in favor or opposed, there's also no booing. Okay, it's been that way for 28 years in Aventura. Please respect the process, okay? It's worked very, very well. Everyone respects. And I'd ask, I know there's people having a hard time hearing the speaker because of the child. Several children, okay. I'm gonna ask if the children are making noise, and everyone has the right to hear the speakers, and the speakers have a right to be heard. So if they're gonna continue to make noise, it's not fair to the residents that came here. Thank you. I'm sorry. Name and address. Hold on. Okay. I
Mr.
wanna make sure
Mayor.
you have your full time. 3 minutes. Yes.
My name is Scott Kramer. I live at 3500 Island Boulevard, Aventura. Mr. Mayor, city commissioners, staff. One of the things that I heard recently in support of increasing density is that the county was asking that the city of Aventura increase density in exchange for allowing a metro rail station at the site. Now, I can't swear that that's true. That's what I was told from somebody extremely reliable. How ironic that the purpose of the Brightline, I meant Brightline. How ironic that the purpose of Brightline was to diminish the amount of traffic throughout Miami-Dade County in the state of Florida. And yet it's Brightline that's going to cause an increase of traffic within the city of Aventura to the extent that you're agreeing to allow increased density because of Brightline. So we're going to suffer because of the installation of a Brightline station through additional traffic because the county agreed to put a station there. I'm not sure how much that station helps the city of Aventura residents if it's going to increase traffic. Indeed, when you speak to anybody about Aventura, besides the fact that all of us residents love Aventura, the one thing that they constantly complain about is what? I could go down the line, and of course, I won't speak to any accounts commissioner individually. What's the biggest complaint you hear about Aventura? Traffic, traffic, traffic. And here you're agreeing to density. Why? To benefit some developers. Now, I have not a thing against developers. I used to be a developer myself. However, it's not reasonable to permit development within a small city like ours, like they're doing in downtown Miami, Brickell. When I've lived in Miami my whole life, do you know that when they started building all these high rises in downtown, I always wondered, how are they going to do it? Where are the roads for this? Where's the infrastructure for this? I know that Aventura doesn't have that. Indeed, they're doing a construction project right out here, and we have to go all the way around because we only have a couple of lanes and we can't detour traffic any more than going all the way around the Lehman Causeway. It's ridiculous. So I'm not sure whose interest the commission thinks will be served, not the residents that are sitting here, who I'm sure are extremely representative of our entire community. So when you vote on this, please think about the residents. Please think about the people who put you in the chairs that you're sitting in, and don't think about others who may or may not live here and don't have the day-to-day concerns about the traffic that we're confronting on a daily basis. Thank you.
Okay. Please respect the process. This is not a back and forth or a give and take, but I just want to indicate to you that your reliable source is not that reliable, and the Aventura station is not actually in Aventura. Our hands are tied. I'm not going to go into it now because we had workshop this. It was open to the public. It was all explained. But the Aventura Brightline station is an unincorporated Miami-Dade County. And to the extent your source is telling you that we cut some kind of a deal, density for station, it's just flat out not true, okay? But things like that always get said, and we usually can't defend ourselves, but I'll leave it at that. Your source is not that reliable. Anyone else on this issue? Yes, sir.
Mr. Commissioner, my name is Joel Asaraf. I live at 3500 Island Boulevard, Aventura 33160. I disagree with the higher density of habitation for all the obvious reasons. I also have a question. As you know, the insurance market is in a terrible shape in South Florida and in Aventura as well. And one of the reasons that are given is that there are less and less insurance companies willing to insure the properties here. And also that by having less company, we have a stronger geographical concentration of units insured by few companies. In other words, the fact of increasing the density is going to also increase the number of units that have to be insured by those few companies. So I would like to know if the commission looked into this aspect and eventually tried to assess the, the potential very negative consequences in terms of insurance for all the residents of Aventura.
Thank you. By the way, every commissioner, every elected official shares your pain. All of our insurance rates went up too. That happens, those discussions take place in Tallahassee. You should ask your state rep and your state senator and your governor why they didn't focus on insurance in the last legislative session, why they were more concerned with permitless gun carry and other things that negatively impact our lives instead of real things that matter to us, okay? Why did they have to debate for weeks and months about 6-week abortion instead of insurance when our residents can lose their homes because of the fewer and fewer insurance companies? You're preaching to the choir, sir. Anyone else? No clapping. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for giving us the opportunity to speak in front of you, first of all, okay? You've all been elected by the residents here in Aventura to represent the residents, okay? And if you're
Sorry,
considering
name and address?
Sam Zeifer, 3700 Island Boulevard.
Thank you.
Okay, and as representatives of the population here, okay, the idea is to represent them and do what's good for the majority of the people, okay? What you're possibly looking to okay is good for the developers, okay? And it's a hindrance to the population. All these developers knew what they were buying when they bought it, okay? What the density was, and now they come along and look for an increase, okay? The residents will be suffering if you okay this higher density, okay? Okay, so please reconsider it in the future of what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And I should have clarified earlier, I'm sorry. This is for this item. This is 6A. If you're speaking on another item, this is not the time. 6A. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear before.
Hi, my name is Jennifer and I live at 21232 Northeast 31st Place. I've been an Aventura resident for over 25 years. Whether you know of me or not, I know many of you commissioners from outside the seat you're currently sitting in. Whether it be from Mo's at a family brunch or a neighborhood group chat, or hearing about a dinner you had with my grandparents many moons ago. What I'm trying to say here is that Aventura is a very special place. It's a place where if you live here long enough, you have ties to everyone and everything. What drew my family and I to Aventura is the same thing that drew many others. An abundance of parks and playgrounds, amazing green spaces, beautiful old trees with canopies that only come with years of nurture. And although already bursting at the seams, a population density much less than our surrounding areas. Brickell, Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach, and downtown Miami. With the current zoning changes being voted on, grass being changed to toxic astroturf, and over 30 mature trees being cut down to make way for pickleball courts, we are going to lose everything that makes Aventura so special. It's not too late to listen to your constituents and save our city. Our city cannot handle these zoning changes you are about to pass. Developers will have the right to build 90 or 70 units per acre instead of just 25 units per acre in certain areas of the city. Our infrastructure cannot handle this. Schools, roads, parks are already overcrowded. I understand the county is putting pressure on you, but please fight for us. I was at the last commissioners meeting where I listened to the mayor blame the county for taking 10 years to add 1 bike lane. How long do you think it will take the county to respond to Aventura's rapid growing needs when we have a high density category in our zoning laws? No, the bright line is not the answer either. I understand that change is a constant, but let's change in the right direction. Building more per acre and taking away more green space is not the way to change. Let's build our city up in a way its residents need. More trees for shade, safer bike lanes, more schools, parks, and green space. Thank you.
Thank you. This is 6A. Who's speaking on 6A?
Devin Okai, 3340 Northeast, 190th. This is on Loman's plot. This is on the mixed use, right? 6A.
This 6A.
A few comments I wanted to make. I know that there's a concern for Miami-Dade taking away our zoning rights, and I think Aventura has good reason to push back on that. One is we have the Aventura Mall in our town, which is probably one of the largest tax revenues for the county and the state. We have hotels that people come from all around the world. We have one of the best malls, but it also brings a lot of traffic. And we're also the bridge that connects I-95 to Sunny Isles. Huge density in Sunny Isles. So we have some reasons to push back to Miami-Dade if they're going to change our zoning rights. I do think that density makes sense, but it has to be done very targeted. And you have to make sure that if you're going to do mixed use, it has to require basic amenities for the people that go there. You want to reduce the amount of trips. They get to their destination, they can stay in their apartment, they have to have a grocery store, restaurants, shopping, that all makes sense. But I would do it one property at a time. Maybe there's a minimum that you have to do. The large properties, I think Loman's Plaza probably fits the bill. It's right off of Biscayne. It's very large. I'm not sure if it makes sense to expand past that, but why don't we start with one? The downtown of Aventura really seems to be working nicely because it's got everything around it. We need to get people to walk and use their bicycles and not get into their cars. So if you're going to increase density, make sure that it's planned out so that there's a lot of walking paths. Who knows, maybe you can connect the south side of Aventura to the mall, because right now, no one wants to cross Lehman Causeway to get to the mall. If there's a way to get there, maybe there's something that you can require a developer to put in there, whether it's a pedestrian bridge or a tunnel, or I don't know. But I would say targeted, one property at a time. Let's not go too big. Let's just start with one property and see how it goes. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you. 6A, anybody else? Yes, sir. Come on up. Name and address, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Ron Froome, 1000 Island Boulevard. I think everybody pretty much is saying the same thing. I have a question. I'd like one or more of you commissioners to now tell us what the benefit is to increasing the density. And I don't get it. Could somebody please tell me? I'm supporting increasing the density, and go ahead and tell me why and what the benefit is to the residents.
Mr. Mayor, if I can weigh in. So, and I know this is hard for all of you because land use is really complicated, but the way this is supposed to work is you're supposed to comment about the item that's in front of the commission, that's 6A, and the commission is not going to answer questions at this point in time. It's for you to make comments to the commission as to whether or not you're in favor of the item, you're opposed to the item, and the reasons why you support it or you oppose it, not to ask questions. There were times prior to this meeting where you could have contacted staff, you could have talked to the commissioners individually and gotten your questions answered, but this is not the right forum for that. It's really to make comments about the item that's before the commission. I hope
This
everyone
is
can
before the
understand that.
commission.
It's not to shut anybody down. It's just we have to follow certain protocol so the meeting can move, expeditiously. And when you're asking questions of the commission, first of all, they're not really going to answer those questions. They're not the subject matter experts. Those presentations have already been made. So just keep your comments to why you support or oppose a particular agenda
But the
item.
presentations have been made by their attorneys and their professionals. I want to know the commissioners who are going to be voting, what they think the benefit is. And I think my question is proper. And I also, I know your protocol about not clapping. I think you should know where people stand. And booing, no, but clapping, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on 6A? Seeing none? Yes.
us. I'm on 5,000 Island Boulevard, apartment 1004. I think I know a lot of you. I am shocked at Meyer's response. I am shocked at hearing all of you not respond to your constituents. You're here, you were voted by us to be there. When somebody asks you a question, we want to know how you stand because we voted for you. We want to know why this is good for us. The fact that you don't want to tell us leaves a very strong doubt in my mind. I particularly have a lot of traffic every single day of my life. I'm sure everybody here does too. My mother had a very hard time getting an emergency vehicle to 7,000 where she used to live because there's so much traffic. With the pandemic, we have an increase of a population in Aventura, as we all know. Okay, we don't need any more density. If all of you feel that the developers bought in good faith and they bought a certain density, there's no reason to reward them with higher density. I am also a developer. I also buy property and I also develop land. I know what I buy, I know what I get. I don't get an extra gift just because I bought something and the commissioners give me extra gifts. When the city believes and all the residents believe that they don't need it because it's too overwhelming, that there's not enough response with police, with fire, with rescue, with traffic, you have to listen to us because we voted for you. And when a nice gentleman comes up and asks you nicely, why do you feel it's good for us? Let us know. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with you behaving like human beings and letting us know? Do we need to hear just from the developer and from experts? You guys are human beings just like us. Let us know. It's good because ABC. If it makes sense to you, maybe it makes sense to us. Don't let us leave angry, upset, disappointed with you. Let us leave happy. Let us know why it's good for us. There's nothing wrong with that. If it makes sense to you, it will make sense to us. Okay, but right now, it doesn't make sense to me. There's something wrong when a developer buys something and you reward him with higher density in a city that needs less density, not more density.
Okay, anyone else on this item? If not, I'll close it for public comment. Ask for the city clerk for roll call vote. I'm sorry, I'll leave it open for this gentleman.
Anthony Tedesco. I live in Mystic Point, Tower 229, apartment 2903. I want to expand on what the other people are saying here. The optics, you guys are all in politics. You guys, there's optics going on here that are very bad for you. People are upset and all they are asking, I understand this may not be the forum to answer a question, but seriously, how does anybody on here justify more traffic and more density in Aventura? That's all people are asking. Now, I understand we have rules, but sometimes, come on, guys, you are looking really bad here. That's all I'm saying. And I voted for a lot of you people. So, the point is the optics are bad. And when the elections are coming up just think about how bad it looks now. When can anybody get an answer from anybody on the board? When? You can't. This is the time and place just to tell us why you think density is good for Aventura. It's that simple. That's it. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, I'm going to close it for public comment. And on behalf of the commission, I will tell you, excuse me, if that happens again, I'm sorry. We don't do that here. We don't do that in this city. If you can't follow the decorum, you can't be in here. That's very unfortunate. Same with the clapping. Each commissioner has now said to me to remind you, follow the procedure. With regard to the idea that you don't like the optics or you don't get answers, the fact of the matter is All of our workshops are open to the public. You may choose not to attend, but if you were there, you would know that we have limited authority in terms of what we can and cannot do. And the county has told us that down the road, increased density is coming. We don't want to lose the ability, our ability to govern our own city. So we have to make accommodation to the county, or they're going to do it for us, and we're not going to like it. We've had this discussion so many times, but none of you have participated in it. None of you had been there, okay? We've talked till we're blue in the face. I'll give you the example I used before. Up until last year, we could not prevent smoking in our own parks. Why? Because in that case, it was the state. In many cases, it's the county. We can't prohibit plastic straws right now, okay? We could not prevent smoking in our parks. As soon as Tallahassee allowed us to, we immediately did it in the last administration with Mayor Weissman. But guess what? There's an exception. We cannot prohibit cigars in our parks. Does anyone want our kids breathing cigarette and cigar smoke? No. So we stopped cigarettes. Now we're the cigar police. We have to determine what's a cigarette and what's a cigar in order to enforce our no smoking policy. So whether you like it or not, we don't like it, but all of us together have increased density coming. That's a fact. We have a very, very good director of community development who's getting us out ahead of it. All of these conversations took place in the sunshine. Most of you apparently were not interested enough to be there. And now on your schedule, you're telling us we should be answering questions. We all work very hard to do the best we can. We live in this community and we go through the same traffic, okay? Whether you like it or not, we're up here trying to do our best. I urge those of you that are criticizing and thinking we're not doing our job to run for office and come up here, okay? And sit here and do the best you can. But if you think the answer is to say, no more increase, no more building, guess what? We don't get to do that. But we're doing the best we can to get the best we can for our city. That's a fact. And every one of these commissioners is doing the best they can. And yes, we put a lot of faith in the experts that we hire, okay? And we get a lot right. You probably don't realize that you have the lowest tax rate of any city in Dade or Broward. Number one, why is that? Because we do a damn good job, okay? Now, I'm going to ask once again, do not yell out, do not clap, do not boo, do not hiss. We do things differently than other cities, okay? You want to go watch someone else's commission meeting? Go do that and see how they behave. We're different in Aventura and we're not going to change that. I'll close it for public comment if I haven't already and ask for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland, Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bloom,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, let's move on to 6B, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Chapter 31, Land Development Regulations of the City Code of Ordinances by amending Section 31-21 definitions and Section 31-145 Town Center Zoning Districts, subsection A, Purpose, and subsection B, Town Center District, TC1, to allow multifamily residential densities with a maximum of 70 dwelling units per acre for developments providing at least 15% of the residential units to the city's Hero Housing Program, subject to conditional use approval, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve, please. Commissioner Joel, in a second. Vice Mayor Bloom. Mr. Klopp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the zoning change for Town Center 1. Corresponds with the previous item, which was the comprehensive plan, the long-term plan for the city. and now the actual zoning for Town Center One. I heard a gentleman say, why not try one and see how it goes? So this is actually an application from a developer for this zoning change. Would increase the density from 25 units per acre to 70 units per acre. A benefit, a requirement of the zoning, but a benefit to the city is 15% hero housing, which Mayor, you may want to explain. It's been explained, as you said, in previous workshops where we've talked these items over. Also, it would be a conditional use approval, meaning it's not as of right. They have to come before you with their development plan before they would get that density. I'm going to show you where TC1 zoning district is, and then we'll go back and look very quickly at what the development proposal is. So TC1 is, we heard Loman's Plaza mentioned, is not called that anymore, but this is TC1 here, but also a little bit of it along the Lehman Causeway. The zoning district is those two areas, and the proposed project is in this area along 192nd Street or Lehman Causeway. And this is an aerial view looking from the north to the south. Here is the government center complex. This office building exists. This office building exists. This is the new Hilton Hotel. And the proposed project is this residential project here, infilling into the area close to Biscayne Boulevard, providing mixed use in the town center area. Happy to answer any questions about the proposed change to the TC1 zoning.
Okay, I'll ask for any commission comment. Let me just say, this hero housing is something we're doing that will probably, I believe, will be a model for the nation. This is where we are going to provide luxury housing for our teachers at ACES and Anton Sofer High School, and also our police officers. For recruitment and retention, we want the best teachers for our kids, and we want them to stay in our schools. We want the best police officers available. We want them to stay in our city. So for as long as they're in our employ, they will have an opportunity to live in a luxury building at a greatly reduced price. In most cases, they would not be able to afford to live in our community. But now they will be able to live in our community, walk or take freebie or ride their bike to their place of employment and serve our community and be a part of our community. So this is something that we're doing that we believe will be a model for the nation. Any commission comment? Yes, Commissioner Friedland.
So I want to respond to an email that I received from a resident, and many of the other commissioners did, asking specifically questions about this change and variance and why we're doing it. And they were not aware that we have been through 2 or 3 workshops where we go line by line with the contract. So if anyone, they're not here in the audience, I know, but they asked this question, or, you know, there's variables in this contract. No, they're not. We have gone through every single bit of that contract. So I want to make that clear. The thing is, I also want to respond when the audience asks why we don't respond. We're not allowed to. It's not the procedure. It's not what we do. But this hero housing is the reason I voted for the extra density. I want our teachers and I want our police officers to be able to afford to work and live in our city. State of Florida is the 49th lowest paying salaries for teachers. We cannot get teachers because they can't afford the housing and they don't want to stay. And that is the reason I would vote for this. And I want to be very clear, the hero housing is for our teachers and our police officers. It is not open to us, and it is not as open to just anybody, but that is very significant that we take care of them. Thank you.
And can I just say, because I think I received the same email with several questions. I think at our workshop next Thursday at 9 a.m., Mr. Manager, if I'm not mistaken, the details will be discussed at a public meeting. The writer of that email, who I think she said she's going to be watching the live stream now, she's more than welcome to attend that. And all of those questions will be answered. Any other commission comment? Yes, Commissioner Cruz.
I just want to assure everybody that this is done on an individual basis, so you don't, so you understand that we're not allowing everybody to do this who comes into town. This is on, anytime they come to us, it'll be on an individual basis that we make the decision.
Mayor, can I just say something?
Yes,
So one of the things, you've heard the commission talk about workshops, and we realize that workshops are held at 9 o'clock in the morning, and many of you can't attend, but all of those workshops are recorded. All you have to do is ask the clerk for a copy of the recording, and she'll send it to you. And you'll see the commission discuss these items in great detail. So it may be inconvenient to attend live, but you can get copies of the recording. You get the minutes of what happened. And so you'll be, better informed. And then, there's nothing that stops you, as some residents have done, from reaching out to the commissioners before they vote, or sitting down with the manager or the community development director and asking questions at that point in time. So you have an absolute right to listen and ask questions and be educated about what's going on. But at this point in time, during the commission meeting, when the items are up for vote, it's your turn to offer your support or opposition. Everything leading up to that is when you can get your questions answered. And I understand some of you don't understand that, and you feel that we should answer questions on the dais, but it's just like I say, we have to follow certain protocols, and it's not as if you're shut out from participating and asking your questions. The workshop is the best opportunity to do that. And if you can't make the workshop, like I say, at least you can listen to the recordings. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. City Attorney. And I should also add, I urge all of you to go to cityofaventura.com and opt into the email notification system as well as the text notification system. I think we're the first city to have that. So it will remind you when the commission meetings are. It will remind you to get a look at the agendas. So if you want to be involved, we encourage it. On this item 6B, any member of the public want to speak specifically on this item? Yes, come up forward, please.
First of all, I just became.
No, excuse me.
My name
Excuse me.
is Anna
Excuse me.
Maltagarazi.
Name and address, and
Anna
also I should have reminded you
Maltagarazi,
before,
5,000 Island
no
Boulevard.
yelling, please. We don't yell here. Thank you.
5,000 Island Boulevard, apartment 1004. I just became a resident of Aventura. That's why I haven't been to meetings before. I was a resident of unincorporated Miami-Dade before, and I was involved there before. My mom did live in Aventura, so I was aware of the fact of what was going on in Aventura, as most of you know. Let me ask a question. I know that Rachel said that the reason that she voted for it was because of the HERO program, that 15%, which is 10 units for the 10 units, right? It's 15%, right?
This is not a question and answer.
Okay,
The attorney
Okay,
just
so-
finished telling you that.
15% of the 70 units will be towards the HERO program?
Yep, I'm sorry. The attorney just finished explaining. This is not a question and answer period. You give your opinion.
Okay.
You're in
so-
favor of
okay,
it if you're not.
so-
We're not
so-
answering.
So if 15% of the HERO program is for the increase, and we're increasing from 25 to 70, there's a 45 unit increase, and 10 units are gonna go to the HERO program. So 35 units are not going to the HERO program. I just wanted to know if that's increase is sufficient, or maybe all the units should go to the HERO program that are gonna be increased. That would be a great thing, because 10 units would not be sufficient for me to give to all the teachers. If it was up to me, I would like all the increases to go to the teachers. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. Anyone else on this item, which is 6B?
Devin, okay, 3340 Northeast. I think town center makes sense. I think town center makes sense. You're gonna make your decisions regardless, but just some more.
Sorry, you're doing nothing wrong, but you're just very tall, and so people can't hear you.
My mom is, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. In
I'm
fact,
vertically
a little bit-
challenged, I
I'm a little
know.
bit jealous, so.
My time's running though. So I think town center could be a good model to start with. But I also realize that, 25 to 75, that's three times for the developer. So the developer is certainly getting something out of this. If I was a developer, I'd be very eager to get 3 times zoning levels. And 15% hero, I think hero is great as long as it's not abused, as long as the city is taking a look at that. I think that Publix should be required. Make sure that whatever they're doing, grocery stores, restaurants, as many things for people to do because you want them to be walking. We want to reduce the amount of trips that people get into their car. It's great that the hotels are there. So now someone can come from the airport, go to the hotel and spend their entire time in town center. That's what we want. That's what West Palm Beach has. The project that's at 299 Aventura, I believe that's only office, which presents some issues possibly because now you have traffic just coming in to go to the office. Maybe there's a way so that you can, as I said before, get the office people to walk somehow to the mall. It would be great business for them. Maybe you can get them to develop some kind of pedestrian bridge to connect the southern side of Aventura to the mall. This way you get more people walking and cycling. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask is, I know we're mentioning that Miami-Dade is threatening us with zoning. I think I would want to know as a resident, have they sent legal notice? Have they officially threatened to take away your zoning? And if that's the case, you should be reaching out to the representatives, to your state representatives. Aventura Mall brings in a tremendous amount of money to this state. We are probably one of the largest sales tax revenues, hotel taxes, and we should have some clout with them. And Sunny Isles is our pass-through. Everyone that's going to Sunny Isles has to come through Aventura. The state, the county should understand that they can't push us around. We have to push back, I think, and at least get these projects right off of Biscayne. Just don't move them further in. Traffic is a mess. We're not going to expand our roads anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this item, which is 6B? The clerk needs your name again, please.
My name is Joy Zeifer. I live at 3700 Island Boulevard, 33160. And I just want to make a comment. I understand that you have workshops, but many of us work and we're not able to attend at 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. And that's why you do see probably a larger audience tonight at 6 p.m. and thereafter. My comment is that you refer to Town Center Office Park and Town Center, and that's wonderful. But you did not show on the map exactly what the area is that you're referring to. You don't put the address, you don't put a picture. So for those of us that have not had the opportunity to go to your workshops, we don't really know, other than the developer that got up mentioned one building. So my question is, Town Center is just one building? I kind of think it's not. However, you haven't made it clear to the public. So when you make these presentations, please put the parameters of the entire address. So for those of us that don't have the opportunity to attend your workshops, to know further information, that when we show up at these meetings, we know exactly what you're talking about, what you're referring to, make it crystal clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on 6B? Okay, I'll close it for public comment. And ask for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bloom,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Madam Clerk, item 6C.
An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Chapter 31, Land Development Regulations of the City Code of Ordinances by amending Section 31-145E, Town Center Office Park Mixed Use TC4 District subsection 1, purpose, and subsection 4, conditional uses permitted to allow multifamily residential uses with a maximum of 50 dwelling units per acre, subject to conditional use approval, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve, please. Vice Mayor Bloom, second. Commissioner Stern. Mr. Klopp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a different town center zoning. It's called Town Center 4. And it is also a specific individual request for this. And it, if approved, would increase the density in Town Center 4 from 25 units per acre to 50 units per acre. And again, would be by conditional use approval, meaning each project would have to come before you individually. Now, the location of TC4 is Biscayne Boulevard and 207th Street, currently known as the Aventura Corporate Center, which is office oriented. And you may recall that a project came before you for increasing the office space at this location, which was approved. The density change is going to provide them the opportunity to exchange the intensity that they would be putting with additional office space under the current zoning, instead with residential, which causes less traffic. So what this application does, while it does increase density, actually decreases the projected amount of traffic that could come from this location. I do have the opportunity to answer just a couple of questions that I've heard tonight. First of all, the county's RTZ zoning was approved. It was an ordinance the county commission approved after negotiations with the League of Cities, and it does threaten municipality zoning. It says if you don't do this by July of 2024, then we can come in and start approving projects in your city under our zoning code instead of yours. We are, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, ahead of that. The impacts we believe are reasonable in Aventura, and that is what we're starting to put together. And the other thing,
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the deadline again from the county?
July 2024.
July 2024, the county is threatening to take whatever zoning they want us to have and cram it down our throats. And with your help in this commission, we're getting out ahead of it.
That's correct, sir.
Thank you for repeating that.
So, the other question is about project details. We put all of our project details available on our website. We have a listing of the current status of the various proposals. It is quite extensive, and what often isn't realized by the public is there are many, many projects that get proposed, may get approved, but never move forward. It's a very difficult time right now to develop, and just because there's projects coming ahead doesn't mean they're going to get built. But we still have an obligation to see those applications, review those applications, and act on them. So just wanted to mention what the project is at the Aventura Corporate Center. This picture actually blends existing buildings in the foreground. Here, this is an existing office building. There's an existing lake. This perspective is really from the AC Hotel. I'm sorry, looking from the AC Hotel towards Biscayne Boulevard. And these would be residential projects that residential buildings that would be built close to Biscayne Boulevard with the ability to walk to employment such as at the hospital and even walk to the Brightline Station and other transit opportunities along Biscayne Boulevard. So I'm available for any questions, going from 25 units per acre to 50 units per acre, but decreasing the potential traffic on this site.
Any commissioners? Commissioner Marks?
Mr. Klopp, is this the project that increases the number of residential units to 495? Is that the one you're discussing right now?
It is the zoning that would allow for that, but the actual project details will not come to you until September. This is just putting the zoning in place to enable them to make that request that has to come before you for approval.
But what came to us at a workshop was for 495 units. Yes,
That's correct.
okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay, on this item, 6C, any comment from the public on 6C? Yes, sir. You'll need to state your name again, please, and address.
Sam Zeifer, 3700 Island Boulevard. I'm the president of Med Village. I want to compliment all the commissioners, okay? You guys are doing a fabulous job in representing the developers, okay? Unbelievable, okay? Okay, the residents are just second class. You keep forgetting who put you into this office, okay? Okay, to represent them. And it's unbelievable that in the voting, there wasn't one person up there that had a difference of opinion, okay? You all voted like monkeys. Yes, 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 okay? Do you all represent the developers? Does anybody there have the backbone to represent? the
Okay,
residents?
we don't do personal attacks. If you're in favor or opposed to this, we don't do that here, okay? That's not Aventura. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's not our decorum policy, okay? We got your point. Now, tone it down. That's not how we operate.
Okay. Before you vote today and in the future, please think of the people who put you into office. Please think of the residents who live here and are going to have to either enjoy or suffer by the votes that you make. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I hope I'm speaking on behalf of other elected officials, but I'm speaking definitely on behalf of myself. I would not want for you to have to come back here after the county decides what our density is going to be. And then you tell me, where was I not getting out in front of this? Why didn't I protect the people who voted for me? And that's exactly what we're doing up here. You can disagree, but we know what's coming if we do nothing. And then you'll be really upset. Yes, sir. You'll need to state your name and address again.
I'm back. Anthony Tedesco at 2903 Mystic Point. First of all, I want to make it clear, when I first came up, I wasn't criticizing you guys because I'm on the board at Mystic Point. And there's no way that you can make everybody happy. I understand that. The problem I'm seeing is that when a developer buys a property, he knows what the density is. I was here against Belmont on Yacht Club Way, not so much because of the building, but the fact is they wanted an easement. When they bought the property, let them build on their footprint. Right now, you've got whoever owns that property with 25 per acre, now they want 75. If I were a developer, I would have bought that property knowing I could come in front of you and I can get 3 times as much. This is what, whoops. This is what everybody here is talking about. You guys got a heck of a job. I bought here when this was unincorporated Dade County, and I can see the magnificent job that Aventura has become. But the point is, we're killing ourselves. There is no reason that you have to give a developer an easement or give a developer more than what he bought the property for. If it's 25, then let him build 25. If it was 50, let him build 50. Why give them more than when they bought the property? Is it because they can come here knowing full well that you'll vote yes? This is what's upsetting the people here in the audience. And when I said earlier about the optics, it's very important. Now, like I said, you guys are in politics and you know what I'm saying. And it doesn't look very good. And I know, listening to the mayor, he's got a tough job. You do. And I'm not criticizing. But the point is, a lot of people here can't come at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I understand calling and watching things on getting a video, or a lot of people can't even do that here. So the point is, there has to be a time when you maybe just answer a simple question. Why allow developers easements or increasements in what they originally bought? It's really simple. Why make it easier for developers? It's that simple. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comment on this issue? Seeing none, I'll close for public comment. Oh, Commissioner Marks?
I would just like to put a comment on the record. prior to my vote. I wanted to wait until I heard both the audience and the commissioner speak. But I understand that the density is very, very large and things are looking as if it will be larger. One of the things that I brought up at our workshop meeting was that we need an overall plan for what this is going to look like in terms of where is the extra EMT service? Where does the hospital know that we're going to be adding, many new people and so on and so on and so on. So the infrastructure I brought up is a very important concern as we move forward. So I would just like it stated on the record that when I vote, my vote will be because of the things that I just said. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
No.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland,
No.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bloom,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
The motion passes.
It appears that 6D is continued to the September 5th, 2023 commission meeting. 6E is continued to the same time. 6F also, 6G also. So we're up to 6H, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Chapter 31, Land Development Regulations of the City Code of Ordinances by creating and defining committed submerged open space, revising the definition of open space, amending the site development standard for open space, Section 31-143F3G, in the multifamily high-density residential district, RMF4, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve. Commissioner Joel, I need a second. Vice Mayor Bloom. Mr. Klopp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one instance where I specifically requested to bring forward the exact same presentation that you all heard at the workshop where we discussed this, because there has been so much confusion and honestly misinformation in the public about this item. I'll state from the beginning and then I'll state it again at the end. This is a ordinance that those that want to preserve things and make sure things are done well should be in favor of. And I'm going to explain why. In general, it is a proposed code revision to provide clarification and resolve an interpretation conflict in our zoning code. As you know, as the community development director, developers come to see me quite often. Sometimes there are developers that develop all over South Florida, and other times it might be a one-time situation for a landowner who wants to do something with the property they've owned for a long time. What I'm going to be talking about is all theoretical examples, hypothetical. This isn't real. This is to explain the conflict. A landowner comes in to see me. He or she owns this piece of property. Landowner says to me, I've looked at the zoning code. I understand it. It's my understanding that I can build 200,000 square feet of building on my property by right. That I have to provide 40% of my site as open space, meaning nothing can be built on that 40%. It has to be landscaping or civic space, etc. They show me their building envelope, where their parking area, where their building is, etc., and where that open space or green space, 40% is left. And in this drawing here, that would be 40% open spaces left. And I say, yes, you're right, done. You can have your development approved. You can get your permit, go ahead and build. Okay, now a different landowner comes to see me. Same exact piece of property in terms of size. But it also has a substantial amount of water, submerged land adjacent to it. It's part of this person's property, but some of it is upland, Some of it is submerged land. And this individual says to me, I can build 500,000 square feet based on my interpretation of the zoning code, the way I read it, because I have a bigger property when I include my submerged land, which gives me, and they are correct in saying this, which gives me more intensity because I have a larger piece of property. I don't have to provide any open space around my buildings, this person says to me, because I have all this submerged land, which is open space, isn't it? And I answer back, you can't build anything, nothing. Because the way I look at the code, your whole site, your whole upland site, the actual dry land has to all be open space. Because the code says you have to have 40% of your site left as open space. So because you have this big piece of property and because 60% of it is water, under a different section of the code, you can't build anything. Well, as you can imagine, as anybody who respects property rights can imagine, it's not fair for the city to tell somebody who has one piece of property that they can build 200,000 square feet by right, but somebody else who has the same amount of upland property can't build anything, and they're being punished for the fact that they also own submerged land. So it's two different sections of the code that don't work well together. So there has to be a middle ground. There has to be a right way to do this. There was not an answer in the code. The way the code is written, it leaves us in this difficult position. So what we have come up with, what we're proposing to you tonight, is that the code be changed just slightly to say, okay, it's a 40% open space requirement on this piece of property. Another way of saying that is you have a 60% buildable area, okay? That 60% buildable area should be the same whether there's a piece of submerged land attached to it or not. That's the fair thing to do, okay? So we would tell either one of the property owners, with or without the submerged land, you can build 200,000 square feet, okay? And you must provide 40% of your upland as open space. Okay. Now, you can build more under the existing code because you have a larger piece of property. Submerged land counts towards density. But if you do so, you must provide more open space on the upland accordingly. So if you have this envelope, the 60% buildable, and now you're going to use some of the submerged land toward more building, here's what it starts to look like. This area in the middle here, this strip that adds some allowance for additional building, but we're reducing the amount of buildable area, increasing open space. Increasing open space is what this does. Okay. They want a 50% buildable area. They use some of their submerged land as they're allowed to under current code for development. They have to give us more open space on the upland. And it just keeps going, okay? As they want more square feet, and I use the example in workshop, think of it as building blocks. Square feet of building is like a block. How many blocks can they put on their property? Well, where they can put the blocks get smaller and smaller, but they might be able to build higher. They still have to meet the zoning code. They can't build any higher than the zoning code allows them. But as they find more ways with good design to put more square feet on their property, their envelope gets smaller, open space increases. Okay. At some point, they can't get any more building blocks on their upland. It just won't be feasible. So it really is a design question, how much of their submerged land they're going to be able to count towards intensity of putting up on the upland area. Okay. So Bottom line, more building, more upland open space. It's a design question, parking, rooftop open space, height, shadows, setbacks, building spacing, circulation, all of those things they still have to meet. One thing I should say, I'm sorry to have to go backwards here, but in the scenario where they're counting this middle area, the lighter blue towards intensity, this ordinance makes sure that they can never fill that area. It dedicates that as open space in the future. So that's a second benefit of this ordinance for those that want open space, those that want preservation. Not only does it increase open space on the upland, but it dedicates submerged land so it can never be utilized for anything else. Okay. So this is one where the public has just gotten it mixed up, and I wish more folks would have called me. They saw these articles, advertisements in the newspaper, and believed what it said. It's not true about this ordinance. This ordinance is something that we all ought to be in favor of because it clarifies things and protects things. Happy to answer any questions about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll ask the commission if they have any comments, but I wanted to make one. Actually, for those of you that were saying that we should be doing more to inform you. All of the commissioners saw this presentation already in the workshop. I asked Kevin to show it again tonight, specifically for the residents, because it's so important and because there was so much misinformation out in the public domain where the actual truth was turned on its head. So I wanted people to be able to see for themselves that this actually protects open spaces, and this is sound planning. Kevin, I'll ask you, would you consider this to be a pro-developer change?
No,
Would you consider it to be having your thumb on the scale to favor any party?
no, I believe this is as fair to both private property rights that currently exist and surrounding property owners who want to maintain their current amenities. It is finding the fairest balance between those two things as possible in the code.
And will this resolve the conflict we currently have in our code where it says two different things?
Yes, it should resolve that conflict.
Okay, and one other thing that I think is very important, and you correct me if I'm mistaken. A lot of what I saw in the public domain talked about your waterfront property is at risk. The city wants to do this and the city wants to do that. In fact, right now, any developer that owns submerged lands can do, if they can get the permits from Durham or from the state, dredge and fill, correct?
If it is so zoned, which is a distinction that's important. Some submerged land is already zoned for conservation, but some is zoned for development.
Some submerged lands are susceptible that in the future. So for example, if anyone knows Brickell Key, all those high rises, that island was created, man-made island of high rises, Brickell Key. People know Fisher Island. That was dredge and fill. That was man-made. That wasn't there. Somebody created that and took away somebody else's unobstructed waterfront. Star Island, all the Venetian islands. If you ever played golf course at Normandy Isle, it's all man-made. So if I'm understanding correctly, with this change, once a developer commits his or her submerged lands to open space, they cannot use it to build on. They cannot dredge and fill because it's already committed to the open space calculation and thereby protecting what I think are the best open spaces of all, which is waterfront. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the commission? None? Oh, yes. Sorry. Oh, Commissioner Freeland, you buzzed in. You go first.
Exactly what I have a big issue that we have a code with a conflict and ambiguity in the way it's written. And I'm an attorney and I always say you have to fix this ambiguity, and that's a requirement, I think. necessity. But the reason I will vote for this is because the biggest concern I have is the land that we have, the submerged land. Let's look at Mall Lake. Let's look at the canal on 207th Street. All of that could be filled in by a developer. And we need to protect that. And that's, I just want to make that very clear. One day, what you look out on Mall Lake behind Williams Island and Ports View could all be filled in by a developer if we don't make this change right now. And that's what I'm looking to protect.
Commissioner Marks.
Can you tell me, Kevin, you showed different scenarios. Can you tell me how many of the current properties that are attached to water that would be considered submerged land are where the water is larger than the land part?
Where the water is larger, and I'm just gonna guess, I don't have.
Yeah,
an actual calculation. I would say there's maybe 3 or 4 that might fit that category.
So the majority have more land than water.
Yes,
So the scenario where if this were to pass becomes a benefit to the residents because now we're protecting certain things, quite frankly, only would affect maybe 2 or 3 or 4. Whereas if we did not do anything, and I respect the fact that an attorney is wanting to clear up everything, and I am not an attorney, and so I totally respect what you're saying. I would also say, however, that for 25 years, this has been in effect, and we haven't really had a problem. They come to the city and they get whatever determination the developers get. And my concern is that that this vote might be opening things up to actually provide more density again because of the fact that they're using the land, especially when the water is smaller generally than the land. So I just wanted to make that comment.
okay, if I can clarify though, even in a scenario where the submerged land is small compared to the upland, this ordinance will result in more open space on the upland than they otherwise would have to give if we don't make the clarification.
The very first slide you showed was where there was a little bit more even land and water. And it didn't appear that that was the case. So what am I missing here?
Well, 2 things combined. First is that they can currently count that submerged land toward intensity on their upland. And 2, that what this does now is say, if you choose to do so, you're going to give us more open space than the code currently requires. So we're actually increasing open space.
Where's the where are you getting this open space? A rooftop to residents? And I'm talking as a resident. I'm not talking as a commissioner right now. Somebody who has a rooftop.
I'll use an
grass?
example.
Okay,
Because it exists. I'm not saying anything that isn't open public record. When Art Tech was developed, they owned a portion of the canal, submerged land, and they counted it to increase their density. But they didn't give us more open space on their upland. With this ordinance, Art Tech would maybe still have the same number of units, but they would have had to design a little differently to provide more open space surrounding the project. So even in the small, counting a little bit of canal or a little bit of waterfront here or there towards intensity, this is going to be a benefit to more open space for the community.
Commissioner Friedland.
I just want to point out, Kevin, that I didn't know until you explained that the submerged land under Mall Lake is actually owned by someone in the little Mall Lake and the big Mall Lake. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the canal that's down 207th Street, that's owned by someone. They actually own it, which means that they could get rid of the marinas and build it all.
In that case, not quite true because most of the canal on 207th is zoned for conservation.
Okay.
There's a small portion at the very east end that could.
But Mall Lake is owned and most of the submerged land. So when there's no more land and these people might want to develop, we could risk losing this water.
Might be
front.
50 years from now, but at least we'll have the code in place now to protect us in the future.
I hope it would be that long, not sooner, but yeah.
Any other commissioners? If not, I'll open this item. On this issue. Hi, into the mic, please. Name and address.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yolanda Wolfson, 19667 Turnberry Way. This whole issue has come up as a result of SOFR wanting to build in our island. So it's not just something that came up because developers are all looking to do this. This just came up because he wants to build where the old hotel is. And he needs that extra land or, to be able to make his plans. We don't have an issue with him building where the old hotel was at all. In fact, we would welcome that property being used again instead of having it, abandoned there for so many years. However, we do hope that you all understand that there are a lot of us who live there, not only in Turnberry, but Mystic Point as well. The traffic that building what he had proposed originally, it's going to create havoc to our island. Our infrastructure cannot support it. The bridge will have to be changed by the Corps of Engineers in order for that to happen, on top of the fact that already there was an approved assisted living to be built on that corner of Aventura, Country Club Drive and Yacht Club Way. So we're looking at a lot of building going on there. Changing this code, I don't believe is in our best interest. I do believe that builders will go back and revisit this and change it according to what is in their best interest at the time that they want to build. So whatever we do today, it's not going to matter 10 years or 15 years from now, because you all know it's going to be changed and proposals like this are going to come back up on the table. I just hope that you all understand that by doing this, you are going to create Pandora's box for a lot of us who live in Aventura, not just for the ones who live right now on Turnberry, but everyone else who lives in Aventura. And I do hope that you will take into consideration what you're voting for.
Thank you. Thank you. And
And thank you, Dr. Marks, because I think you're one of the most
I'm-
logical people.
please respect the process. I misspoke. This is item 6H. I'm sorry. I said item 7 on 6H. Yes, sir.
Okay, would you be kind enough, I just took the
Okay. Funny, the clerk just reminded me to make sure you're talking to the microphone so that people watching at home can hear it. So no one can hear you. So you give that to the clerk, please? The clerk in the end. Thank you.
First, thank you for allowing me to
Right in.
talk.
Na-
I'm Stephen Friedberg. I live at the North Tower at Turnberry for 40 years. I've been the president of Turnberry for 21 years in the past. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity. I want to thank Kevin and Mr. Watson, city manager, for having an open office. They're really great. But I wouldn't want to be a commissioner now because you're between a rock and a hard place. Why are you laughing? I don't want to be a commissioner. You're between a rock and a hard place. You're indebted to the Sofas. They did more for the city than anybody else. They do great things. They give you donations for schools, or they give you property. They do great things for you, but for us, the residents of Turnberry who made the Sofas, it's been hell. We spent $5 million on legal fees because they were so negligent in taking care of our property. That's a fact. That's in the law. Please, if you pass this here without giving it enough time, you're not passing the smell test. There's something wrong here. If you're passing it, this is a 25 years. No one has ever sued the city on this here. No one has asked anything about this until Sofa's new project that he presented to the city was declined because it didn't have open space. Well, now when he builds 2 towers, and you can look at the pictures in front of us, our views are completely blocked, completely blocked. And as the mayor said, if he increased taxes at the last meeting, you'd have an uproar here. Well, when your property gets devalued because you don't have a view by 30 to 80%, so says the realtors, you've taxed the citizens. You've taxed them, and we're not going to sit by and let our properties devalue because of this. We're going to have legal fights, and we don't want that. Now, you could do some great things here. You could do something fantastic here. You could do something like you did at Echo Park, where you had a walkway where people could walk away. Our walkway around the marina is being taken away. Our tennis courts are being taken away. Our open space is going to be zero for the 5 buildings of Turnberry. What happens to our open space? Why don't you guys ask SOFA to donate the tennis courts to the public? We will allow our private community to open to the public because we have thousands of children coming every single day to.
Thank you. No, you can't have 1 more minute. You want to finish up? I'll let you, but your microphone has been cut off. Give me 30 seconds. I'm asking him to put your mic back on, but
If he donates the tennis courts and we give him different variances and we let him build on the point and we let him build a little bit higher, that would be great. There's no reason to rush this, as Dr. Marks has said. No reason to rush us, no reason to put this through June and July when no one's here, when the people are not educated in this. And to Rachel, if I may call you Rachel,
okay, I have to ask you.
the last sentence, please, because it goes to what Rachel said last time. At 34th Avenue, the marina there, you didn't want to allow the developer to build for his restrictive covenant 5 floors to 22 floors. Well, SOFA is going to be building from 3 stories that he was allowed to build maybe on the tennis courts to 30 stories, from 250,000 square feet to 600 and some odd thousand square feet.
That's a very long sentence. You told me last sentence. Come on. I'm trying to negotiate with you. You told me last sentence. Thank you. We understand your point, and I also thank you for recognizing that the manager's door is always open for conversation and discussion and questions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I recognize you, but you have to say your name again and hold the microphone.
3340, my height, sorry. I didn't realize I had so much to say tonight, and
You name and address again. I don't know if
I said it already.
okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. So what do I have to say about this?
But you have such a cool name. I'm sorry. Can you tell the people your name again? First and last.
As long as it's not going to take my time.
I'll give you a few extra seconds. Say the name again.
My name's Bevan Okay.
Evan, okay. Is that a name or
My
what?
brothers' names are Nevin and Devin, and we're all okay. So. And
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
and I
okay,
want
sorry.
Kevin to join the
Listen,
family too.
Please.
So,
Sorry, Bevan. I'll give you time made back up.
Kevin, thank you for clarifying that. What I have to say, so we're increasing density on Biscayne, right? We're voting for that. It seems that that's happening. And now we're possibly increasing density on the water. I can make, that could be a problem. So you got Biscayne density and the water. And my point would be unintended consequences. When you make a law, you change zoning, you may not know exactly what the consequences are going to be of changing that zoning, because now what you're inviting is developers to enforce the code. Developers going to come here and say, you changed the code, now we're going to enforce it. You don't want to invite a lawsuit. So be very careful with the way the code is written, is what my recommendation would be. Open space should not mean that residents are swimming to enjoy the open space. So I think you have a possible solution, which is you have to clarify the code because it's ambiguous right now. So developers need to know that because to Kevin's point, you can't tell someone they can't develop at all. So maybe a solution would be you have an upland calc and then you have a submerged calc. But you should have the lesser is what the developer can use. Come up with something that works for the residents so that there's two calcs, not just one. And know what properties, know what's going to happen with our town to know exactly which developer can come in and do what. So I think this is a two calc solution. Upland and then submerged calc, but it should not exceed what the old code was. Kevin brings up a good point it's very, if a developer can't develop at all, that's not fair. So you gotta fix that, but don't make it where they're putting a bigger footprint on the land and residents have to go swimming to enjoy the open space. We're not gonna be walking around with swim shorts on every time we walk around a building. It's just not happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Step right up, sir. Name and address. Thank you.
My name is Leon Silvera. I reside at 19707 Turnberry Way. I am the current president of the North Tower Condo Board. I've been a resident of Aventura for 40 years. The proposed amendment to the zoning is intended to give relief, as Kevin said, to developers who have submerged lands. It's specifically relevant on Turnberry Island. The developer here acquired the land when the zoning was in place, and it's been in place for 25 years. He should have known what he was allowed to build then. In order to understand the implications of this amendment, I met with the planner a few times for an interpretation. Additionally, the North Tower and the South Towers engaged a consulting engineer to review the amendment. The proposed amendment, in terms of scope, would give the developer the ability to build approximately 800,000 square feet of development. At the most recent meeting with the city officials, we were asked to propose alternative language to this amendment. We did that. We proposed language that would let the developer develop, but take into consideration the needs of the community, so it was a bit of a reduced plan, so that he could build his upland, which would be 660,000 feet, not 800,000 plus feet. 660,000 feet is quite a big development. Let me be clear. We understand that the developer has to develop his land. However, it is the duty of this commission to take into account the interest of the developer and the residents of the community. That is not what is happening here today. By rushing the amendment during the summer months when the population drops and not even considering or discussing a compromise alternative that we put on the table, it was completely rejected. You are not serving the interest of the whole community. We have presented by email to all of you a petition objecting to this amendment signed by 1,247 residents. These signatures were gathered in 1 week. If we had more time, we would have had 5,000 opposition to this. I'm not sure that you are all aware of the impact of the size of the development that could result of this with this amendment. It took us, with the help of professionals, consulting professionals, several meetings to understand the scope of this project.
You'll need to finish up. I'm sorry. Your microphone is off.
I have exactly one sentence left.
Okay.
I implore you to study this amendment carefully, postpone the vote until it is fully understood, and consider some suggestions from the community which take into account the developer as well as the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak on 6H? Come on up. Up, someone was before you, but it's okay.
Sam Zeifer, 3700 Island Boulevard, Williams Island. There's a name anybody that's been around here for a long time, that you're probably familiar with. Gentleman by the name of George Berlin, okay? He helped them develop of Aventura and Turnberry, okay? And when they were developing the marina towers at Turnberry Way, okay, zoning variances were needed because the new building will be further away from other buildings than originally planned, said George Berlin. I'm quoting him. When residences are in their apartment and look out, they don't want to look at another building. Quoted by George Berlin. Please take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir in the back. Good evening.
Good evening. Glenn Waldman, 350 Alhambra, Coral Gables. I'm the attorney who represents Turnberry Isle South. And I listened to what Mr. Clapp had to say today. And first off, he was kind enough to meet with us. And we did have a nice open dialogue. And as a consequence of that discussion, we proposed alternative language, which was just spoken to. I heard Mr. Clapp tell you all that this was sound planning, middle ground, the right way to go. And respectfully, the language that we proposed, which was rejected, which we really think you should be considering, is the middle ground. Because as just explained, the ability to build 800,000 square foot is unacceptable. It just is. And the problem is that Mr. Sofer has had the ability now to double dip with that land, the submerged land. He was able to use it for a marina, which he's done all this time. And now he gets to double dip on it and use it again. That's not appropriate. It's not acceptable. And the proposed changes that we had asked to be made would do exactly what you all want, which is to protect and preserve, but at the same time, not allow somebody to double dip. And that was not accepted. And again, I urge you, because we don't want this to turn into something else. We urge you to consider that language because that would accomplish what this commission seems to want, but at the same time, not allow somebody to take advantage twice of the same land. In this case, the submerged land where there's a marina. So I thank you very much, and I hope you will consider it because I would think that would be the right thing to do based on all I've heard tonight in terms of what you're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also appreciate the brevity from an attorney. I've been one for over 30 years. I got to take lessons from you, I think. Thank you very much. Anyone else on this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment section. Commissioner Friedland, I think you want to make a comment.
I wanted to make a comment that we are not voting. This is not a consideration of any project. It is only about the code. I wanted to ask Mr. Klopp if he might be able to, well, Mr. Klopp, before I bring up, may or may not appreciate this, but I wanted to actually make a motion to defer that we could workshop this a little bit more. I don't think that the public has a clear understanding of this amendment change and how it affects. And I think deferring for another workshop would possibly be helpful for the commission as well. So I want to make a motion to defer and see if there's a second for that motion.
Is there a second? Seeing none, I guess the motion fails. I would say that we've now seen the presentation 2 times, a workshop and tonight from Mr. Klopp. So I'm not sure what else we're going to see. He's going to do his PowerPoint again, and he's going to tell us exactly what his position is and what he believes is best for the city. So I'm not sure what another workshop will do. But anyway, it fails for that. Any other comments from the commission? If not, no. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
No.
Vice Mayor Bloom,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving to item 7, first reading ordinances. Madam Clerk?
Aventura City Commission acting in its capacity as the governing board for the Aventura City of Excellence School, ACES. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending ordinance number 2022-07, which ordinance adopted a charter school operating and capital budget for the Aventura City of Excellence School for fiscal year 2022-2023, July 1 to June 30th, by revising the 2022-2023 fiscal year budget document as outlined in Exhibit A attached hereto, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to carry out the aims of this ordinance and providing for an effective date.
Motion approved, please. Commissioner Cruz, and a second, please. Vice Mayor Bloom. Mr. Manager, you want to review this?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. This is a year-end budget amendment, which is a normal course of business for us, where we clean up the budget for ACES. This year, we have a budget amendment of $4,296,200, which is rather large. We account for that, like in most things, where revenues come in and revenues go out through expenses. 95% of that number is relatable to two things. One is the amount of money that we received from the federal government through the state and through our district for ESSER grant funding that goes to the schools. And the other part of that is a referendum settlement that the city had with Miami-Dade County School System. So as that money came into the city, it was spent. And now we're accounting for that. That was to assist the schools with teaching and doing various things. And of course, the referendum was to pay teachers a higher a stipend for excellence in what they do. A normal course, a normal resolution, a normal correction in our budget or amendment usually is around $300,000. And in this case, the normal things that we do see an adjustment for this year were in pupil transportation, which is busing. There was an increase in busing around county where we just had to pay bus drivers a little more. It was $100,000 amendment. Water and electric costs more. We had to pay $68,000 and adjust the budget for that. Insurance was increased to $88,000. Building maintenance and cleaning and repairs and maintenance was a little over $100,000. That was the controllable part of our budget amendment, which is what you normally see in a regular year. It should be noted that when we spend money and for the ESSER funding, the city has to pay that first in order to be reimbursed. So you do see a lot of times a large amount of money being paid out, but we do get reimbursed later by the district. And because of the amount of money and the amount of schools, that reimbursement is a little slow. So it is not unusual to see an outflow of, in a case like this year, of over $1 million. But we will receive it you'll see it in next year's budget as it coming back in when we get reimbursed. Thankfully, the ESSER funding is kind of coming to an end, so these large numbers will basically disappear, thank God. We could keep talking.
Sorry, I had to get a Coca-Cola. Anyone have any questions or comments from the commission? If not, I'll open it to the public on this item, item 7. Okay, I'll close for public comment. Ask for roll call vote.
Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bloom,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 8, resolutions. Madam Clerk?
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, accepting and adopting in principle, subject to annual revision and authorization, the City of Aventura Capital Improvement Program document for fiscal year 2023-24 to 2027-28, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to carry out the aims of this resolution and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Motion, Commissioner Joel, and a second, Commissioner Friedland. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, again. The capital improvement plan, which was, we're looking to approve tonight, is a 5-year plan. It covers and gives us the ability to plan out in the future expenditures on things that we might do to improve the buildings, vehicle purchases, and big capital items and equipment that we might need into the future. The most important year in a 5-year plan for capital improvements plan is the first year. This year, we're proposing a budget of $2,612,075, of which $1,519,125 will come from the general fund. We get to that number because we review all our expenses and revenues, and we back into how much money we can spend from our general fund to support our capital improvement plan. So in that way, we really never go over budget. We always know what we have, and we're very careful. As you heard before earlier in the meeting, we're very fiscally conservative when we budget. Some of the things that we will be spending money for this year in our capital plan, in our parks, we have security upgrades. We're replacing some fencing, some drinking fountains and soccer goals. In our streets and parkway, we have $278,000 dedicated to crosswalk safety enhancements, roadway repairs, and some resurfacing work. In our buildings, we have $181,000 dedicated to that for some bathroom renovations and some audio equipment in the community center, as well as replacement of playground equipment over in the at the ACES school. Our IT is, we spend $1.5 million, $1,150,000 in IT. A lot of that goes to the schools, and that is covered. That was covered early in school budgets. But as far as the city side and the police department, we'll spend about almost $300,000 on desktops, laptops for our police cars that need to be replaced occasionally, 20 vehicle printers, some modems in the cars, and radios. Those are the types that are actually in the car, and some of them are handheld. Those are very expensive items. We spent $185,000 on just our infrastructure and IT. That's for redundancy. So in case we have a problem with our system, we have backup to it. Cybersecurity, if that's another word for it. Our security cameras, we replace them regularly. We have software licensing that we maintain, and security and server switches. The big item for us is in our police department. We're replacing 8 patrol cars, and we're adding and replacing 1 K-9 vehicle. That's almost 600. That's just under $600,000 for all of that. We're also purchasing some traffic monitoring equipment. We get a lot of times calls for people who want to know how fast cars are going. So we have equipment that we put in place that lets us monitor that, so we can tell people how fast they're going and what is the real traffic problems, and how fast, to take care of that. We're also buying ballistic vests and SWAT vests to the tune of just under $50,000. So that's what your capital improvement plan is.
Thank you. Any commission comment or questions? This is on item 8. Does anyone from the public have any comments on that? If not, I'll close it. Ask for roll call vote.
Commissioner Joel,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bloom,
Yes.
and Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Reports. Any commissioners have anything to report on? Commissioner Friedland.
I just want to report that I had a wonderful meeting with the mayor of Modin in Israel. And this is in hopes of creating our partnership, our sister cityship with a city in Israel. And the most impressive aspect about the meeting was the mayor of Modin focuses all on transportation and infrastructure and modernizing his entire city. And he has developed infrastructure ideas that I think will be very beneficial to us in Aventura. And he doesn't worry about density, to tell you the truth, and he doesn't worry about cars on the road, because he has created such an infrastructure system that he can monitor cars as they're moving and see how he needs to change the lights as the cars are passing through. And I think it was an incredible idea to work in partnership with them. And I hope that will go forward in the future. Just wanted to let you all know.
And that company that he uses to do that, I met with them in Israel. It's an Israeli startup, and trying to get them to work with Miami-Dade County because, of course, we don't control the traffic lights in Aventura, another thing where our hands are tied. But what they're able to do to reduce the backup and the timing of the lights in real time, it gets adjusted. It's really amazing. So I think we're all excited about this potential sister city relationship. One of the cool things is that they're located halfway between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, similar to our halfway location between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. So we're going to probably have a very nice relationship with them. Any other reports from commissioners? Okay, how about the attorney?
Yeah, I have a report, Mr. Mayor. It's really not so much a report, but an announcement. And what I'd like to announce is I'd like to call a special meeting, an attorney-client session of the commission. I'm permitted to do this under Florida law, where we're in the midst of litigation and we have pending litigation. So I need to seek the advice of the commission at this attorney-client session. I'm suggesting that we hold the session during our commission workshop, which is scheduled for the 20th, July 20th at 9 a.m. On the 5th floor, in the 5th floor conference room. Understand that the public is not allowed to attend the attorney-client session, but there will be a court reporter present. And at the close of litigation, at the conclusion of litigation, the court reporter's transcripts are available to the general public. So I anticipate the session will be about 30 minutes in length. I will be attending. Matt Mandel, my partner, who's also handling the litigation on behalf of the city, will be present, as will the members of the city commission and the city manager. Those are the only people who are allowed to attend, and the court reporter. So I think that works with our schedule. And what will happen is during the workshop, we will break from the open portion of the workshop and go in a closed session, to do the attorney-client session. Also, the clerk will notice the fact that we're going to have an attorney-client session at that workshop.
Okay, so if that's acceptable, will we still be starting at 9 a.m.?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation would be to do it at the very end of the workshop. So then after we get out of the closed session, we'll go back into open session, and then you can adjourn the meeting. So it'll be 9 a.m. or thereabouts. We can't give a definite time, but sometime after 9 a.m.
Okay, can I see head nods? That's okay with them? Okay, so we're doing that. Any other reports, Mr. Manager? Okay. City Clerk, anything to report?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 10, public comments. I'd ask the city attorney to review the purpose of this and also the rules.
Yeah, I think we were through this earlier, and I know it's frustrating to some of you, but really it's just restricted to 3 minutes of comments on matters that we haven't already discussed in the meeting. If you do have questions after the meeting, I mean, get with the manager or get with me, or make a phone call or send an email. So that's the way, we handle Q&A. It's directed to staff or to the attorney, after the meeting. If you have a question for a commissioner after the meeting, I suppose it's okay too. But the purpose of this portion of the meeting is just to make comments for 3 minutes about matters under the commission's jurisdiction that haven't already been addressed. And as we said earlier, they're not personally to attack any member of the commission. The commission is not going to have a back and forth with you. They're going to intently listen to what you have to say for no more than 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. So who would like to speak? You can either come one at a time, you can line up, but your name and your address to start with, please. Thank you. Good evening.
My name is Alicia Bonvicini, and my address is 3029 Northeast 188th Street. I have spoken at these meetings a few times already since May 2022, but tonight I won't be talking about Founders Park South. Other friends and residents will do that. There is another project that is planned for one of our parks that, in my opinion, deserves equal attention. For those who don't know yet, the city of Aventura has approved to strip the big field of Founders Park North of its natural grass in order to switch to synthetic turf. Why so many parents are distressed about this project? Why a petition started last Sunday has now reached 400 signatures? I tell you why, because artificial turf is a controversial material filled with PFAs, aka forever chemicals, that take thousands of years to break down, chemicals that can affect our environment, our water, and our health. And who uses that field? Mostly kids. Children play with their friends or practice sports on that big field. How could we not be concerned knowing that artificial turf is also connected to a higher number of injuries in athletes compared to those who play on natural grass? Why am I telling you this? Because the science is clear and the articles in scientific journals on the hazardous nature of these chemicals abound. PFAS are called forever chemicals because they do not break down in the environment and they build up in our blood and organs. They are among the most persistent toxic compounds in existence. I'm telling you this because maybe you don't know, but the NFL players are pressuring the league to ban artificial turf because of injuries, while the US cities that will host the World Cup have been told by FIFA that they must switch to natural grass in their soccer fields for the same reason. In my communication with our city manager and mayor, I was told that this project will save the city approximately $100,000 a year in maintenance, will reduce the spraying of fertilizer and water usage, and ultimately allowing the park to be open every day. But if we consider the science that says that these forever chemicals have been linked to an array of serious health problems at extremely low levels of exposure, or if we consider that young athletes get injured more frequently when they play on it, my question is, what parent would want a park open all year or a smaller maintenance bill if the health and the safety of their kids is on the line? Not one. And one last thing, among the justifications for implementing synthetic grass, I was told that there are other parks and schools in Miami-Dade that also use it. Since when usage has anything to do with proof of safety? The idea that the industry claims that this grass product meets accepted safety standards is not reassuring. One, because the science says otherwise. Two, let's be frank, it would not be the first time that a safe product turns out to be highly harmful. Please consider halting this project at Founders Park North. You are still in time to do the right thing. When it comes to this issue, there is not a divided city or
Yes, just, I have to ask him to put on the microphone for you. See, try it now.
okay. Yeah, okay. I can find it. We don't need synthetic turf at Founders. Maybe we need greener options, but definitely we don't need plastic grass. We don't need less green. We need more green. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, step right up, name and address, please. Thank you.
Jeffrey Schwager. I'm a resident and board member at Aventura Marina. I'm here to speak against the repurposing of Founders Park South. Despite having factual evidence, which we provided to you both individually and as a body, you have refused to place the repurposing of Founders Park South on today's agenda, which would have opened this topic up for further discussion. Is this a case of incompetence or indifference? Cities all over the nation have learned lessons from those who have acted before them. They are now putting pickleball courts indoors or in industrial and commercial areas. The city of Hollywood has put them in a non-residential area just off of I-95. Miami-Dade will be placing them underneath the metro rail in the new underlined park. But the city of Aventura can't waste their time with facts. Let's put them in between two residential communities. Where's the noise, traffic, and environmental impact studies? About the only thing that you could possibly do to demonstrate an even greater lack of understanding of this issue would be putting the quietest, most serene activity right behind the pickleball courts. And that's exactly what you have done by locating garden beds directly behind the courts. Do you think that a nature-loving family wants to sow, nurture, grow, and harvest plants along with their children while being exposed to the constant popping, which sounds like gunfire? So then after the gardens fail, you can say, see, we tried to give you nature in the park, but nobody wanted it. Now we can tear them down and build more courts. Did any one of you raise any objections at all to this project or even ask any questions? And if you did, precisely what were the answers that you were given that satisfied your criteria for approval? for breaking a contract, for locating it by residences, for not doing noise, traffic, and environmental studies. Until we have those answers, we have to ask, is this incompetence or indifference? And unfortunately, to us, it seems like both.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Step right up. Name and address, please.
So my name is Ronnie Porat. I live in Aventura Marina 2. Citizen of this beautiful city for a couple of years.
I'm sorry, you're also very tall. That's better. Or you can just pick it up. I want people listening at home to be able to hear your comments.
Okay, my name, can you hear now? My name is Ronnie Porat, living in Aventura Marina 2. I just want to reinforce colleagues here about the Aventura, the Founders Park project, Founders Park South. I've been in this city for a couple of years, and I came before from Israel, actually. And what the Commissioner mentioned about the startup, I know the landscape over there. And I work for an Israeli bank that provides a lot of, land. We lend to those companies. We provide a lot of lines of credits, and those are amazing companies and amazing technologies. What I want to say is that we have an amazing field in Aventura. We have an amazing park, which is Founders Park. Founders Park is unique because they have a natural grass over there. And I lived in Israel for 7 years. We have in Israel a lot of fields for kids. It's very important outdoors, and they enforce the sports and the gathering of people, and all of them are natural. And why is that? It's not because they want to save money or spend more money. It's because the environment is something that can change people, get them embrace the society, and it's beyond the money. It's much more than that. So what I want to say here, I want to suggest for you, you have still time to change it, to change the minds, to change to use your power to really put Founders Park as a beautiful park as it is, and do not change to artificial synthetic turf. This is one thing. And just to finish my comments here about the pickleball, which is a very nice sport, and I like it a lot. In Founders Park South, behind the tennis court, you have a land there, you have a space there. Why we cannot use the space to put the pickleball there? You don't have any building surrounding, we have the Camden and Aventura Marina in between. So we have space there to build that pickleball court. I think this is an idea that came out to my mind. Listen, I'm using the park almost every day. I play soccer with my kids, so why not changing? We still have time for change. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, step right up. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Thank you for listening to us. I'm not a native speaker. My name is Ofelia Duran. I live in 3300 Northeast 191st Street, Unit 101. Thank you for hearing us. I prepared a PowerPoint in order to use my own computer, but the guy told me that it's not the time to use it, but I will use in my phone to speak better. I hope you can understand me. Okay, I'm here for talking about the Founders Park South again. There are some facts. Fact number one, the land was donated under specific condition. Yes or no? Okay. Oh, great. Number two, you know about that condition. You must to tell the donors the change of the purpose of the Founders Park. So city is on violation of the agreement you made with the donors. That's my point. And homeowners have the right to review the change of use, the plan. They have the right to refuse it. Since 2022, the voice of our community are telling you, please preserve the integrity of Founders Park. City attorney tell in another meeting that yes, there is an issue, a legal issue about the use of Founder Park. Now you are continuing doing the work, and you are going to kill, murder more than 30 trees for build and pickable courts that can be built in another place. How could the authorities enforce the law if you, city rules and regulations, if you don't respect the agreements? Zoning change, new big buildings, count submerged lands toward intensities, kill trees, replace natural grass with hot toxic astroturf. I don't know what is in your mind. I don't know what is in your heart.
Your time ran out, the microphone. You have a little bit more. I'll ask him to put it on for you. so you can finish.
But okay, I want to give you this image. It's Photoshop, and I want you.
To the clerk.
I will send the PowerPoint to your emails.
Thank you. I have a request that you talk into the microphone. Name and address, please. Thank you.
Name is Jeremy Milgram, 3340 Northeast 190th Street. As a fourth generation and personal lifetime Aventura resident, I'm completely disappointed with the behavior of the city and its officials. Your word is the most important thing in this world. To completely ignore a covenant regarding Founder South because of a ridiculous claim that the agreement is void is ill-informed and therefore will start opening doors for the city to ignore other agreements and move forward with selfish personal choices like pickleball. With all of the proven nationwide complaints about pickleball noise near residential areas, it is extremely concerning and completely unnecessary for Founder South. There is overwhelming community support against pickleball and not any support pushing this project forward. I urge you to not start a dangerous decision that will have rippling effects. Have you done a noise study? Have you done a traffic study? Have you done an environmental study? Have you done anything at all? The residents deserve quiet enjoyment of their property. Listen to your residents and not your personal hobbies.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, come on up. Hi, name and address, please.
Montserrat Pere, 3330 Northeast, 190th Street, here in Aventura. It's the first time that I've come to a meeting here, and I was really pretty surprised. Number one, when I heard the no clapping rule, and I suppose every rule can be changed, because I don't know how many of you commissioners have had children graduate before. And when you go there, the first thing that the principal, or in the case of the college, they tell you, the provost, is no clapping when they come to graduation. When your child comes up, no clapping. I don't know how many of you followed that rule, because all that clapping does is reinforces the position of either happiness or agreement with what speaker has said. There's actually no reason why that rule needs to be here at all when we have people coming here and saying things that are important, that most of the people that are clapping agree with, and all they're saying to you when they're clapping is, we agree with the speaker. The only reason why somebody would not want to have that rule is because they don't want for people to know how many people are in favor of what these people are saying and against what the commissioners are saying. And again, I would like to know how many of you did not cheer for your graduating student. Now I'm going to go to the Founders Park issue. I can see from my apartment that you have already dug up the dirt. It's already going. It's already happening. They already have the backhoes there. They have, piles of dirt. They already, I don't know how many trees have been killed already. But what we're going to be listening to, other than the trees, is this is the pickleball courts and people. This is what we're going to be listening to while we're sitting by the pool. How do you like that? Day in, day out. Have your beer, have your coffee, but this is what we're going to be listening to. Please think about it, because if you don't live there, it's one thing. And I don't know how many of you live really next to it. I don't think any one of you live in Camden, any one of you live in Aventura Marina 1 or 2. But that's what we're going to be listening to. So please, when you go home, just play this constantly in your head for about 20 minutes. Because that's what we're going to be listening to. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking? No, you spoke, correct? Sorry. Sorry. We have a rule. Sorry. No one has spoken twice. It's been that way for 28 years. I'm sorry. If you want to speak after, I'm sure every commissioner and myself will listen to you. Yes,
Bevan Okai,
Mr. Okay.
40. I'm back. Actually, the last speaker, just so you know, it's 72 pops, 72 a minute. That's what we're counting on. This might be uncomfortable, and I just want to say that up front. I'm not sure how we set sail on this course on Founders Park South. I'm not sure who's steering the ship, whose hands are on the wheel, and who's just on board. It really doesn't matter, because when the ship is headed for an iceberg, we're all on board. The city seems to be misguided and making a big mistake. I don't think this would pass an inspection. You have surrounding communities that have sent legal notices. I'm not going to make this a legal discussion. You have petition signers, 1,700 petition signers saying they don't want this complex in Founders Park. And you also have national news, New York Times. You have national news talking about this. We're actually better off because we're getting this later in the cycle, because a lot of other communities went through this. So why do I say misguided? I say misguided because, well, this gets into legal, so I don't want to do that. But I'll just say there's no external, no independent opinion. Anytime you're going to move into a multi-million-dollar project, get an external opinion. I've done that all my life. Why is it bad policy? Well, the city's got public zoning code. You have your own zoning code, which requires, if you're going to amend a restricted covenant, you send notice. You send notice to 300 feet around the radius. By canceling it, you are amending it. So at least send notice, 300 radius, put a sign up. We could have prevented a lot if the sign went up before you passed the resolution. You would have gotten a lot more input rather than putting it on a month after the resolution. Finally, why is it a mistake? No studies, no traffic. I'm not even sure if the city planner was involved, because maybe things would have been different. This is directly across from the Performing Arts Center and the Aventura Charter school. National news, New York Times. It's like it's like having a pistol range in your backyard. Are these the sounds that you want our children to hear at school? It makes no sense. Logic would say this is the wrong location. It's got to be moved to a place where there's a lot of noise. It's got to be absorbed, and we have it right across the street at the Aventura Community Center. It's indoors and air conditioned. So we're all on board this ship, and you hear the passengers, they're yelling, change course.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I was going to finish what Ronnie was trying to say. As far as the pickleball courts go, that's litigation.
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Aventura Marina 2. My name's Chris Joyce.
Thank you.
Is there a possible way to get pickleball courts on the north side of Founders Park along the highway? Can we move? I mean, now that you voted for Founders Park South, is there a way to move them over? You don't know? I mean, is it possible? And I just thought it was a good idea. He forgot to mention it, but I grew up in Fox Chapel, Pennsylvania. We always had tennis courts, pickleball courts. We had everything. Traditionally, they're just closer to the road. So on the north side, where the former manager and everyone else, they put the tennis courts over there. And it's similar to what I grew up with. I'm just thinking that, can't we just move them over there? And I thought about that after Mr. Munoz, Coach Munoz is speaking last month, that there is a demand for tennis, and I don't know, there's a demand for pickleball because he's a tennis coach, but I'm just wanted to finish what Ronnie wanted to say, that maybe we can move them closer to the road, which when you grew up in the Midwest, that's where they are. So you guys have to get together with the lawyers and sort all that kind of stuff out, but maybe we can do something else. So, thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Sure. Sean Moss, 3330 Northeast 190th Street. I'll be brief. I just want to start by saying thank you for your time and service. However, I'd like to state a few more points regarding the artificial turf at Founders Park South. I've heard a lot of counter arguments from correspondence with many of you about the artificial turf being installed. And I've been told, that there's a lot of other places with artificial turf and chemicals all around us. And while I do recognize that the world throws a lot of chemicals at our children, it is my job as a parent to do my best to eliminate and minimize as much of it as possible. To make sure that it's not forced upon them when not necessary, right? As an example, the school doesn't give our children organic food, but outside the school, I can provide it for them. As well, the city should be using non-toxic pesticides to begin with. I'm not sure why we're not. And while the artificial turf will probably not be the artificial demise of my twins, myself, like a lot of the parents, would prefer our children to grow up in a more natural, organic environment, not a fake plastic one. That is the reason why many of us decided to move here in the first place. I think if anyone would have asked a fair sample of parents, whether they would, parents, they would have told you that they would have preferred a natural surface for their kids to play than an extra 52 or so days of field time. Unfortunately, nothing like that is ever done. I really feel like it is just a way for the city to save $100K a year and make their life easier, which is not how our children should be treated. I really hope something changes on this. There are a lot of upset parents, and many will have to find other leagues and programs for their children. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Good evening. Name and address, please.
Scott Kramer, 3500 Island Boulevard, Aventura. This is, I believe, my first meeting that I've come to a commissioner meeting in Aventura. I really never felt the need to do so. I love the city. I love what the city has done for as many years as I've lived here. And yet I've never been prouder as a father than I am tonight, because it was my daughter who asked me to come. My daughter who's been living here for 20 years, who has a child, and it was so concerned about what's transpired over the last couple of months that she pleaded with as many people as she could for us to come. And now that I'm here tonight, I'm amazed at what's happened. I'm amazed that we're increasing zoning in a city that can't afford it. I'm amazed that we're cutting down trees. I'm amazed that we're using synthetic turf. I'm amazed that we're having pickleball courts that are just so loud and disruptive that it can ruin people's lives. And I'm looking, in all due respect, I really appreciate the fact that you all are here on your own voluntary time. I'm sure you don't get paid for this, or if you do, it's de minimis. And yet, other than one commissioner, and thank you, Commissioner Marks, I just see you all sit here and nobody objects. Nobody says no. You just rubber stamp these votes. And the only time that I've seen a double presentation, in all due respect to the mayor, is when it had to do with this issue about the open space. And he seemed very proud of the fact that he brought the zoning lawyer who wants this for his client to do this. And yet, what about the presentations that people wanted to hear and asked about with regard to zoning in density increases? Are those less important than this one issue that seems to be so important that it had two presentations, but not density? And when people asked questions, they were shot down and said, you should have gone to a workshop. Well, people don't have time to go to a workshop. Sometimes they don't even know about the workshops. And the only time they hear about these things is when all of a sudden there's a commission meeting when it's being voted on. So God forbid that when they come here and they want to be heard, hear them. Maybe answer the questions. There were questions asked of the zoning lawyer, and there were comments made about the zoning lawyer. In fact, there were criticisms about comments made by people here, okay, from the people on the dais when they were saying things that may not have been entirely accurate, instead of defending and answering the questions about why are you doing this? Why are you increasing density, killing trees, having pickleball that's going to disrupt people's lives? And all I see here, in all due respect to the time that you put into this, is just straight faces and no nos. I don't understand it. Are you here for us, or are you here for the developers? Okay, I know a lot of you run unopposed, so God forbid we say, okay, maybe you get put out of office, but we can't put you out of office because nobody runs.
Thank
At
you.
least think about us,
Thank
please.
you. Thank you. Anybody else? Hi, name and address, please.
I'm short. Get on my tippy toes. Gretel Thompson. I live in 3101 North Country Club Drive, Unit 408. I've been a resident here of Aventura for 20 years, and I have always taken pride in this city. But lately, I feel like we're losing the greenery, and therefore my pride. I know construction started already in Founder South, but I know that it's not too late. And I really hope that tonight, each and every one of you takes the time to really think about what's going to happen. My kids are older, a little bit older now, and for future generations, I really hope that you change your minds. In addition, turf, I just really don't know why. I mean, it's toxic. And yes, on pictures, it'll look beautiful. From far away, it'll look beautiful. And as you get close, you'll see that it's plastic. And who's going to be there? It's going to look amazing, I'm sure. But who's going to be actually playing on this grass? What parent is going to allow their baby to crawl on the grass, worried about the baby picking up this plastic that they're going to, God forbid, consume? So when I think about all this, all I can think is about the movie The Lorax, where everything is just coming down. The city has been awarded, all these awards about being green and trees and all that. So what is gonna happen to these awards? Do you stash them away now? We used to have an award and now we don't. And all I can think of, like I said, is the Lorax, where everything is being chopped down and it's all gonna look fake. And I really hope that each and one of you becomes a hero and really thinks about this, and not just for you or for me, but for the future generation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, hi, name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Elena Cantarzi and I live in Aventura Marina 2. I'm very proud to be a resident of Aventura, and I always knew that this city is excellent, especially because of their green, beautiful parks with natural grass. However, all the changes in South and North parks are so disappointed, not only for me, for many parents, for many residents. Please take every step to ensure that you are doing the right thing from a legal point of view, from an environmental point of view, from logical and best interest of Aventura point of view. It's not about my backyard or not. It's wrong decision to put these courts in that park. I have nothing against about pickleball courts or tennis courts. I just think that's not the best place to put them there. Consider the sound and how it will disrupt the AC students. I have 2 children, both of them in ACs. I know that it's really, really loud there because of the canal, because of the echo. In fact, I think we have too many tennis courts in Aventura. I used to live in Aventura I'm living in Aventura for so many years, for 8 years, and there are so many courts, and you cannot see them so busy, actually. And if you want to put your kid in the tennis academy, there are plenty of them. JCC close to us, on Williams Island, you can do that. Nanas Academy that we have, Canis Academy, there are so many tennis courts. Why do we need another tennis courts to destroy the only green, quiet park? I do not understand, really. Also, I wanted to add something about the tennis programs in our park, right? Like North Founders Park. I have a kid who's playing there. It's not busy at all, In fact, when I signed him up for spring program, it was just 2 kids. 2 kids, my kid and another kid. That's why I didn't sign him up for summer camp, because there are no kids. It's empty. The people are playing tennis or pickleball only in the evening time or in the morning time. And we can enjoy the only green, quiet park from the morning till night. I mean, for all ages. I really love Aventura. That's my favorite city. And please think about that. It's not right. It's not the right decision to build those courts there. Take a look carefully, please, in North Founders Park. There are plenty of unusable space. There's so much space to put at least 2-3 pickleball courts, and just to leave this park as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Come on up. I think you might be it. Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Margarita Rosenfeld. I live in Aventura Marina 2, 3330 Northeast 119th Street, unit number 816. I am a retired chemical engineer who spent 30 years in environmental compliance. Basically, what I did for living, I was protecting our air, water from commercial polluters. Okay. As a person with an engineering degree, I like facts. Do you know what it is? This is a sound level meter. I bought it on Amazon, just to keep the facts straight. And last Saturday, My husband drove to Hollywood and checked the noise level about 50 yards. I mean, I'm a metric person, 50 yards and 100 yards from the pickleball courts. And the level exceeded by 50% what what OSHA and EPA required to have for outdoor activities. That means if you're gonna read OSHA regulation about noise, prolonged noise can cause people to lose their hearing. It can cause depression. It can cause a lot of health issues. This is not matter of we like something or we don't like something. This is a matter of our health and health of people that worked very hard all their life and moved for whatever reason to Florida for good weather, medical condition, you name it. And we really don't want our health to be exposed to this kind of environment. I would really like for you to reconsider your plans. There are plenty of spaces, north side, somewhere to move the pickleboard. We can probably, something city can do and to meet our requirements. I'm sure you don't want people to have health problems. I'm sure you don't want some class action lawsuit when 100 people is going to lose their hearing. This is not a simple matter. This is matter of our health and our life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Name and address, please.
Hi, Ariel Penzer, 3340 Northeast 190th Street. My name is Ariel Penzer and I live in the buildings abutting the proposed pickleball courts. Every morning when I walk my dog, the air is filled with the beautiful melodies of songbirds. I love the peace and tranquility of my building so much that I purchased my first ever home, intending to raise the 4th generation of Aventura residents within this beautiful community. The city intends to bulldoze 33 trees that these beautiful birds call home, replacing the melody of nature with the incessant noise of pickleball. I think you've heard it, which has been proven to exceed decibel amounts typically allowed in municipalities, and due to the constant nature of the noise has been described as living next door to a pistol range. Many of us consider Founders Park South our quiet backyard, which is protected by the covenant on public record from when the buildings donated this land to the city to remain a passive park and green space oasis. The city plans to spend $200 grand on lighting to extend night play, despite specific restrictions limiting evening events to 6 times a year laid out in the agreement. The pickleball courts in their entirety are in direct violation of the covenant to keep this a passive park. The city acknowledges the agreement and claims the buildings and neighbors have waived any rights to this covenant. By law, this is just not legally binding. The city claims because the buildings did not oppose the splash pad on the north side of the park that we can no longer enforce the covenant. For those of us like me who are at the park every day, we know the north side has always been intended for activities, which is laid out in the agreement. We are asking the city to do the right thing. These courts do not belong near residences. Honor the agreement and covenant that runs with this land. I hope you can all see that in other cities, these courts are being shut down due to the level of noise they bring when placed near residences. Please change course down, find another space for your pickleball courts before we lose 33 trees, before we lose thousands of square feet of tree canopy and our beloved green space. Some suggestions for other places I've heard are the mall, Veterans Park, and Founders North. You talk a lot about developers donating open space and green space. How can anybody trust you when you trample over an agreement? Please listen to your constituents.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Wang, name and address, please.
Good evening, Xu Wang, 3115 Northeast 184th Street. I love our city of excellence. It is my favorite city and I hope it continue to be. I have never played pickleball before, but closing to retirement age, I may start play again. I may fall in love with this sports. And we have been coming here since April or May of 2022. I have talked to few of our commissioners and our city manager and emailed back and forth with our commissioners. And I had a conversation with our mayor and Commissioner Stern before the election. I believe I also talked with Commissioner Kraus. I have spoken with Commissioner Bloom's husband on the phone because that was the only phone number I could find on the registration paper. I was plead to our city officials, try to save this little park, our city residents love. There are words that no one at the park. This small park is so special, has a beautiful garden, and we have birds singing there, butterflies and bees frequent visit, and so many trees and plant and animals. There are plenty of life thriving there. It's such a beautiful small ecosystem for us to teach our children what nature is, what a beautiful nature we have. And we were horrified, watch the construction trucks just removed all of those plants centered in the harmony circle. And now the hole is digging bigger and bigger. I hope it's still time we can save this park. I hope we can all leave some good imprint to this planet, to this earth. And I hope perhaps we could ask our park recreation department come out a better plan. It was not considered well for the need of our city resident. And then there's legal actions might bring big problem to our taxpayers and voters, and voters will not forget.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else wishes to speak? If not, I'll close public comment. And I'm going to ask for if there's any other business, let me ask that. Item 11, any other business? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Stern, in a second. Commissioner Vice Mayor Bloom, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, we're adjourned.